A warm welcome to our webinar today. Good afternoon to the people joining in from Europe, and still a good morning to the ones joining from the United States. We are happy to have you on our cold chain webinar today. And with me is Colin. He's our Director of Business Development in the United States.
Yeah, and I'm happy to be here as well. And thank you, Michael. And I'm also here, with Michael, one of our VPs of Business Development here in Europe, more specifically around grocery.
Great. So before we get started, we do some housekeeping, which means the call or the webinar today will be recorded so that you can also have a look at it later on. And you can also ask questions. This is possible via the Q&A box you should see on top of your screen. So please feel free, put your questions in there. And please be assured whenever you put the questions in there, you stay anonymous so no one can see who has placed that question. Yeah, today we actually want to talk about cold chain automation, and just to set the scene. So we are basically focusing on the warehouse operation. So everything what happens inside the distribution center, whenever a store has placed an order, this order needs to be fulfilled, and then the pallet is being shipped towards the stores. So what's going on inside the distribution centers? So for the moment, we quite often see a manual operation, and in the manual operation, we face certain challenges. And in the manual operation, we have people working on the orders by taking pallet checks, going around, and the slide does not move. Sorry for that. We have people like this colleague here on this screen. Let's call him Peter. They work in very harsh environments. So if it's a deep freeze warehouse, the temperature is normally around negative 24 degrees Celsius or negative 10 Fahrenheit. And they have to work in a way that they take a pallet check with a target pallet, and they have to pick from the sources here in the shelves. And the challenge is that it's not easy to retain those Peters anymore, because they can easily find a better job down the road, maybe in an Amazon warehouse or somewhere else. And this is really bringing the whole operation at risk. So, but that's not the only topic, labor scarcity. There are a few more challenges, and Colin will a little bit elaborate on that.
Yeah, and I appreciate that, Michael. Yeah, we're running into kind of the same things over here in the U.S., especially whenever it comes to those labor challenges. Like you said, when Amazon's down the street, it's pretty tough to keep these guys in a really chilled and frozen environment when they can work in a more comfortable area for likely same pay, if not better. But with anything that comes with a manual operation inside of these distribution centers, it comes with low worker productivity, low storage density, and it's hard to have that visibility into where the product is actually being stored, how it's being picked. Can you guarantee the accuracy of those picks? Can you guarantee that the actual cube of the pallet is being filled up to its, utmost potential? And, with that being said, even with these manual warehouses, because it's consuming so much space, you see a lot of high energy consumption on that round as well. On top of that, you see a lot of shrink that happens in these areas in between loss, damage, and, stolen goods, but also with damages that can be caused by forklifts whenever they're going in, grabbing the pallet, or whenever they're zooming around inside the aisles, they can, potentially damage it that way. And as I mentioned earlier, the low fulfillment, accuracy, and inventory issues that you can run into can obviously be a challenge in these environments.
Yeah, exactly. So it's really a tough job to work in this warehouse environments in the temperature controlled areas. And we as TGW, we have, of course, thought about how to improve the situation, and we are convinced that automation can help you to improve the overall process. So we would like to put you in control of that warehouse operation again. by implementing an automated system we call full pick. And in the next couple of minutes, I would like to give you an overview how full pick is actually designed and is doing the job in the end. So let's have a quick look at this overview. This shows, let's say, one module of a full pick system. And you've seen these boxes flying in. They are basically describing the standard process inside such a system. So whenever you have a cold chain warehouse, you normally receive single SKU pallets. And these single SKU pallets are then either brought into a pallet high bay or then directly to the depalletizing stations. At the depalletizing stations, we simulate the cases and then load them onto trays. So maybe the first question pops up, why do you actually use trays? And the answer is also quite simple, because trays are the perfect interface between an unknown case where we cannot guarantee the quality of the packaging and the warehouse automation technology. And on top of that, as we always try to load as many cases as possible based on the footprint of a single case onto a tray, we can also increase the storage density in the shuttle engine. So we can put more cases into the engine compared to just putting one case onto a tray. Yeah, the shuttle engine, as already mentioned, is then the next step on the journey of a case through this automated system. And it's our dynamic buffer. So that means the item or the case sits in there until we receive an order from a store. This order is then actually calculated in a way that we have a packaging software. We call it Alpaca internally. And this packaging software is calculating the perfect design for the customer pallet. So we do it according to a couple of different requirements, like store-friendly design, but also to have it packaged in a very, very dense way for the shipping operation. So, and to create this pre-calculated pallet design, we have to bring the different trays into a sequence. And this happens then in the next step with a sequencer, where we generate this pre-calculated sequence. Then the step is followed by the detraying operation. So we take the cases off the tray and hand them over to the palletizing machine. And then in the last step, shrink wrap is put around for a safe and secure transport then to the customers. But we not only want to show you this animation, we also have prepared a little video. So what you can see here now is a shuttle, small robot moving along an aisle, and this shuttle has retrieved now a tray. The tray was handed over to a lift, which brings it down to the level where the sequencer is. And the sequencer, this sequencing operation, some might say, could also be done by the lift of a shuttle. But in the same time, whenever you would do this, you would decrease the performance of the overall shuttle system. So that's why we have decided to do the sequencing outside, and we do it with a very robust conveyor system. And this sequencing system actually consists out of two parts. We see part number one here on the screen. So we are sorting here groups of 8 trays into multiple lanes. Here in this example, there are 6 lanes. And then we take one group and we do the fine sequence. So this happens in sequencing step number 2. So just look at the trays. They are being pushed to the right or to the left until we have the recalculated sequence. And now these 8 trays, they flow towards one palletizer. All these trays must not go always onto the same pallet. It could also be that maybe the first 7 are for pallet A, the next one, the 8th one, is for pallet B. We just generate a uniform flow of trays towards the palletizers. And then in front of the pelletizer, which we see already here on the screen, we have in the next step the unloading or detraying operation. I already mentioned in the beginning that we try to put as many cases onto one tray as possible. So it could also happen that not all the cases on a tray are needed. We have to unload just a specific number. This is done here at the detraying station. And then you see there are a couple of turning devices which bring the specific cases in the right orientation for the pelletizing operation in the next step. Now the pelletizer, as you can see it here, it consists out of two robots. The robots take the specific cases and put them onto the pre-calculated positions here on a pellet. And when you look at the video, you can see a roller cage right next to it, which means that we can pelletize on two different load carriers inside the system. That's not a problem. This sequence now just shows the manual intervention in case an error happened, a case is late, whatever. And we have quite good access to the load carrier to fix these areas. Now, what we see whenever a pellet is actually ready, it will be handed over to this transfer car, and the transfer car will the pellet to the central shrink wrapper, which also helps to reduce the investments into the overall system, because instead of having a shrink wrapper mounted at every pelletizer, we just have a central one, and which allows us really to actually reduce the investments and make better use out of this equipment. So that's the overall process from the shuttle system towards the pelletizer. And this type of system, it cannot just be implemented in a deep freeze warehouse, but also in chilled warehouses. For example, also in warehouses where we have to handle bins or totes. And I brought a video with me. It's an installation in Switzerland from our customer Coop, and they have their own pool system. And in this with these pool totes, they handle all the chilled and fresh items, so all the meat products, the dairy products. So you see the products come in either on pellets or roller cages. Then in the next step, we offload those roller cages and bring up the different bins to a traying operation. It happens here. You've seen a little stack of totes is positioned on a tray, and then the trays are being buffered in our shuttle system. Whenever the order comes in, we calculate the required sequence. You've seen the first stage of the sequencer. Now we see the second stage of the sequencer, and again here, the flow towards the pelletizer. In this case, it's a stacking device. We just do the other way around compared to destacking. We build a stack, and then this store stack or store-ready stack is being brought down and pushed into the pelletizer, and then for load securing, just a thread is being put around instead of, let's say, using plastic wrap, because the customer wanted to get rid of the plastics and have a more eco-friendly version. Yeah, that's how we use the system on the one side, either in deep freeze environments or in this version also as a tote-based system in the chilled environment. And when we now look what such kind of a system can bring you in terms of labor reduction, it can be like up to 85%. This is really a fantastic number. But this is a number now for this tote-based system. Whenever you handle cases in such an automated system, as cases are, let's say the operation is not as productive, you would have to estimate probably around a reduction between 65 and maybe 75% of labor compared to a manual system. So whenever you are interested in such a system, the question is now how we will work with you. And Colin will also give us some insights on how we take you on that journey so that in the end you can fully enjoy the benefits of such an automated system.
Of course, and I appreciate that, Michael. But the best way we can introduce automation into any warehouse, and the reasoning behind that is to basically put the customer, more in control of their warehousing operations. And really, I don't want to call it hand holding, but it's more having a partner that can help navigate the complexity of introducing automation within those four corners of the warehouse to really maximize the amount of volume that you're going to get, whether it's in that given footprint for a brownfield installation or whether it's a greenfield installation. So you want to have someone really partner with and, walk through each of those processes. And more importantly, it's gaining that visibility that goes into the warehouse in and of itself, especially whenever it comes to, like we mentioned earlier, monitoring the picks. Is any shrinkage, being evaluated? We want to try to remove that as much as possible. But also, we don't necessarily want to get rid of the personnel that's inside of those warehouses. We want to be able to repurpose them to work in a more comfortable environment. And the way we're able to do that and start that journey with whatever partner, customer that comes along with us. And the way we do that and during the process is identifying the key parameters as well as the business drivers that are actually, why it's driving you towards automation. And the way we do that is we put forth this full pick solution and we integrate this into the inbound and the outbound areas. We slam it right in the middle, but really we use these modules to then input it into all warehouses, whether it's, like I mentioned, brownfield or greenfield. But more importantly, introducing automation will help with the labor force, repurposing them. It'll help with their order accuracy, maximize that volume within the given footprint that you're trying to install it in. And then also you're going to have a system that lasts, 20, 30 years, if not more. So this is a very robust system that we've designed in order to put inside of these cold chain environments. Being said, I just want to make sure that we have some key takeaways here, especially centered around full pick and then TGW. But with these, and as I mentioned earlier, this is a very future-proof solution. And with that being said, we want to design this. Yes, it can be considered a standardized solution, but we like to tailor it to every customer depending on their needs and within their warehouse. But then also these modules can be fully arranged and put into a brownfield and greenfield site. And scalability, we can roll this out across multiple temp zones, like you mentioned, but also through multiple sites. And then also with the design itself, it's very compact. So you're going to get as much use and volume out of that system when compared to manual solutions. And especially whenever it comes to the store-friendly palletizing, you're able to introduce this automation to not only maximize the cube that's sitting up on top of the pallet, but also get denser storage within y'all's trucks to then, potentially save on shipping as well.
Great. So whenever I think we are ready, then we also have a look into the Q&A now. I think we just need a second to pull them up here in front of this screen so that we can see them. Okay, so I see the first question. So the first question is, can you install this system also in other temperature zones? Yes, of course. You have already mentioned it, and I think we've already seen it on the video. So it is possible to install such a full pick mixed case palletizing in every temperature zone, from ambient down to deep freeze environments. Of course, there are some little tweaks in between. How to adapt then the technology to the different temperature zones, but basically the customer gets the same system with the same great performance in all the different temperature zones. So the next question, I hope this answered the first question. So let's move on. The next question is, what is the ROI expectation for such an investment? That's always a bit hard to answer because it depends a lot on the boundary conditions in the different countries. So, for example, what amount of labor is actually available on the market? What's the labor cost and so on? Because in some of the countries, labor costs might be fairly low, and based on that, an ROI would be rather high. But on the other hand, there is no actually option to get around automation, because no workers are anymore available for that warehouse job. But for a typical investment, I think a customer has to calculate something in between a 5 and 8 year ROI, always depending, as said, on labor cost and the size of the system. I hope that answered this question. Whenever it has not answered it, feel free to add another question into the chat, or maybe you can also later on send us an email. Just feel free to ask all the questions you have. So the next one we see here is, how do you deal with fire in a deep freeze distribution center? Again, I think that's a pretty good question, because fire is, of course, always a big risk, and in a deep freeze environment, even though you use that specific liquids which do not freeze so quickly, using liquids always have the risk that let's say they get frozen, and this adds let's say weight to the racks inside there and could cause the racks to collapse. So this is something which we, of course, want to prevent. And normally we always recommend our customers to use a system which reduces the oxygen level. So we recommend to have such a system which prevents a fire from starting. And the additional benefit of such a system is also that we do not have to put the sprinkler pipes into the warehouse rack, or the shuttle rack in this case, and this also reduces a little bit the weight, let's say, stress for the rack as well.
And then we got another one that just came in. So how much staff can you reduce on average by putting automation into the warehouse? And I think Michael was able to touch on that earlier. So you see around 85% whenever it comes to handling the totes only. But whenever you're handling both totes and cases and corrugate, you can see around 65 to 75%.
Perfect. Then another one is just coming in, and we just need to pull it up. Okay, might have been a similar one. That first one. Perfect. Then we would like to thank you for joining our webinar today. It was really great to have you. I hope it also brought some good insights for you. And we would just like to invite you also to connect with us after the webinar. So the ones who have signed in, they have received a confirmation. They have also received, I think, the link to our LinkedIn profiles. Feel free to reach out and ask any other question you might still have. Except for that, thank you for joining. Thank you, Colin, for being here with me today, and see you next time. Bye-bye.